Hi, English 111. Welcome to the last essay of the semester. This is the argument essay. Now, I know when I say the word argument, what usually pops into people's heads are those highly emotional, usually very loud conversations that we have with our siblings or our parents, and we get into an argument. It's like a fight. That is not what we're talking about for this essay. An academic argument is an argument that says, here's my claim, which is your thesis. Here's my point. Agree with me. That's basically all an academic argument is. So the process of writing this essay is all about being persuasive. So what makes a good topic? So topic choice should be something that there is debate about, perhaps. Or maybe you choose a topic that is a proposal to help fix something and you're trying to get someone to agree with you to adopt that. Couple of things with topic choice. Number one, please be sure that you have closely read the assignment sheet for this essay, because I have listed some topics that you cannot write about. Not because they're not good topics, because they could be, but because they're the topics that every student in the world writes about, and it's really boring for teachers to read these essays over and over and over again. So please don't pick those. Instead, pick something that is a topic that is relates to you or to your life. So here's an example. Actually, several years ago, I had a student who wanted to be a high school teacher. So that's why she was in school. And so she chose for her argument essay to argue that high schools should start later in the day rather than so early. And she used a lot of really good research and a lot of good points to back that up. So she used some research on the teenage brain and how it's not well developed yet. She did some research on how that teenage brain then needs more sleep. She did research on all the ripple effects of what happens if you don't get enough sleep. So by using that research, so by pulling those ideas and using it to support what she was saying, it turned out to be a great argument. It was very persuasive. So think about your topic. Don't just choose whatever comes first in your head. Really think about, what matters to you, what is important to you to want to talk about. So the goal of an argument essay is to be persuasive. You want to think about, by the end of the essay, the reader agreeing with you or doing what you want them to do. So in the idea of persuasion, you want to think carefully about how you write. So yes, your ideas, what you're writing is important, but you also want to think about how you phrase it and how you write it, because that can really make you persuasive or not persuasive. So let's talk about something that's in your reading. So in the reading and subject and strategy for this essay, there is a section on the 3 classical appeals, and you'll actually be using these in a discussion board later in this module. So it's important to know them. So these appeals, in other words, ways to appeal to your reader to agree with you, are ancient. They come from Aristotle and ancient Greece, and we still use them because they are indeed good ways to appeal to a reader. So let me grab my handy dandy mini whiteboard again and show them to you. So they're usually shown, if they're not just like written about like they are in your textbook, they're usually shown as the corners of a triangle because they're all connected. So if we think about the corners of a triangle, if you take one away, there is no triangle. Well, the same is true here. So these appeals are connected to the elements of communication. So in any kind of communication, there is you, the writer. There is me, the reader. Or if this were a speech, it would be the speaker and the listener. So the person doing the communicating and the person receiving the communication. And then there is the topic being communicated. So if you take one of these away, communication doesn't happen. So Aristotle looked at this and said, okay, so if these are the 3 key elements, how do really good communicators communicate? So he looked at this and said, okay, so there are 3 ways that really good communicators choose to communicate. So let me start here with the topic. So the Greek word that's used here is a good one, logos. So this is the root that our English word logic comes from. So logos in Greek means word, but it also has root in logic and thinking. So Aristotle said, okay, so a good communicator is able to communicate their topic with logic. Very clear ideas, laid out in a way that makes sense. They use plenty of detail and examples. So logos, your appeal, the way you really persuade your reader, has to do with using logic as you communicate your topic. So this doesn't mean, jumping to conclusions or offering bad ideas or poor research. All of those can hurt your logos. So as you think about writing about your topic, think about taking it apart so that you can very logically walk through each point and give enough detail and analysis so that a reader, like me, would understand it. All right, so now let's talk about you, the writer. So the Greek word used to talk about the writer is ethos. So you can see the root of our English word ethics there. So that's where it comes from. So the idea here is that as the writer, you want to write in a way that makes you seem trustworthy, that makes you seem ethical. And so this means that you work really hard to show that the information you're sharing, the research you're using, the points that you're elaborating on are well thought out and that they are very clearly laid out so that you appear as a trustworthy or ethical thinker, right? So think about how you come across in your writing. Another thing that you do in the argument essay, and you should do in your argument essay to help your ethos, is to address the opposing side. So in the example that I gave you about the high school start times, the opposing side is, no, leave the start times early. Who cares? This is how it's been for years. Teenagers are able to handle it. They need to figure it out. So just leave the start times early. So in that essay, that student had to not only try to prove her side, but there was also a section of the essay where she had to address what the other side says. Basically saying, critics of starting later say this. Here's why it's wrong. That builds your trustworthiness, your ethos, because it shows that you have carefully thought about this topic. You've thought about both sides. You know what both sides say. So that makes you more trustworthy. All right, the last one that has to do with me, the reader or listener, is the Greek word pathos. So you can see the roots in our English words pathetic or sympathy or empathy. All of those have to do with emotion. So appealing to your reader's emotions can be very powerful. Word of warning here. Be really careful about trying to appeal to your reader's emotions. Going overboard in appealing to emotions basically tells your reader that you don't have anything logical to share with your argument if all you're doing is appealing to emotions. So the best way to appeal to emotions in an academic piece of writing is by using really good word choice. Powerful words, strong verbs. Remember way back when we wrote the narrative essay and we talked about details and strong verbs? This is where it comes back in. Because if you're able to craft your sentences in a way that is powerful, that appeals to your reader's emotions. So you don't have to do things like, oh, but puppies are dying, or what about the children? Those are overly emotional appeals. So be really careful about going that route when trying to appeal to your reader's emotions. Instead, think about word choice and being very powerful in the way you craft your sentences. So in the essay, you of course want to present your side and your ideas that support your side of the argument, but you also need to include a section that addresses the opposing side, that basically says, I know what the other side says. I understand it. Here's why it's wrong, or here's why it's not quite right. You will be asked to do research for this essay again, so look back at the comments in the cause and effect essay to help you navigate your research. You're also going to be turning in an outline, just like you have for the last two essays. Please be sure to use the correct outline format that I've already given you in the sample assignments link. And be sure to list your research at the bottom of the outline in correct MLA format. That way I can help you. I can say, yes, these are good sources, or think about finding another source that's more academic, or I can help you with the MLA format. So that way you don't lose points for those things on the essay. So make sure you're doing the outline correctly. So you'll do the discussion boards, the outline, then the essay, same pattern that we've been following for the essays in this class. So I look forward to your discussion boards and seeing what you choose to write about. Think carefully about your topic, and then we'll get moving with the outline and then turn in the last essay.